everyone. Welcome back to the Dr. Music Podcast. I so appreciate everyone being here, especially my subscribers. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider hitting that button so I can bring you great guests like the one I have today, this gentleman, Matt Scannell. Matt is a founder and singer, guitarist, songwriter for Vertical Horizon. The band started in 1991, find tremendous success in 99 with their major label debut, Everything You Want. Yeah, we know the song, we know the album. The title track would go to number one, stay on the charts for 41 weeks, and be the most played single in 2000. The album would go on to sell 2 million copies, and that was 25 years ago. And Matt and Vertical Horizon are ready to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Everything You Want. They have a few headline dates, and they're starting on August 1st with the Gin Blossoms and Toad the Wet Sprocket. Matt is still doing it. He's out here making music. It's so great to have you, Matt. Thank you.
Oh, buddy, Scott, thank you so much for that. What a nice introduction. I
Man.
feel victorious. I feel like I could do anything.
Great, man. Great. And you've done everything. It seems you've
Wow.
done so much in your career. And it's so great to still have you here. I'd like to start at the beginning because I
Mhm.
love the beginnings of this band. I listened to the first record, There and Back Again. Very
Mhm.
different in the canon, the Vertical Horizon canon.
Yeah.
Um, you were with Keith Kane,
Mhm.
and kind of trading songwriting duties. Uh,
Yes,
he was more of the acoustic guy, and that first record very much reflective of his style, probably more than yours. Uh,
definitely.
yeah, an acoustic record. I love that record. Uh, is it a Vertical Horizon record as we know it? Not sure. I'd love
Yeah.
your take on that. When you listen to that first record, do you still like the songs? Do you still feel like it's Vertical Horizon to you?
I do. It's very interesting the way you said that. Actually, it's so clearly you as someone who sort of became familiar with us at the later stages, or like at Everything You Want moving forward.
Right.
Would saying is this a Vertical Horizon? Is There and Back Again a Vertical Horizon record? The opposite was also has always been true. The people who liked the first record, the second record, as soon as we started doing Everything You Want, they were like, this isn't Vertical Horizon anymore. So there was this sort of line in the sand. In my heart, I felt somewhat unnecessarily so, but you got to acknowledge it, right? We started off sounding one way, and then within a couple records, and not too long a period of time, although it was 7 years, we sounded significantly different. But your point is absolutely well made. I mean, I loved acoustic guitar, loved it, but my heart was in bands. And so when I go back and listen to that record, I love the innocence of it. I love the purity of it, which is something that we've tried to continue with as on every release that we make. We have a very sort of strict sort of list of questions about each song, like, does this feel right? Does this interest us? Does this, do we want to sing this song 1,000 times, 2,000 times, et cetera, et cetera? And I can hear the purity in that first record. I can also hear for myself how far I have yet to go on my journey. My singing is, I'm not a particularly confident singer, even in the best of times now, but certainly back then in the There and Back Again days, it's me just learning about how to make sounds with my voice. We were mildly experimenting with different production techniques, drum machines, keyboards, and stuff like that. But it certainly wasn't a band in any way, shape, or form. It was just the two of us. But yeah, I think ultimately though, as to the question of is that really Vertical Horizon? Without that, nothing else came after it, right? So if I hadn't met Keith, if he and I hadn't formed such a great bond and worked so well together for so long, that the stuff that came afterwards, plausibly wouldn't have happened.
Right.
So yeah, I often look at it sort of like high school, like pictures in your high school yearbook. You
And
know,
I'm so happy to hear you say that because when I listen to it, I hear two college guys forming a duo, like
Right,
Simon Garfunkel.
right,
And
right.
I love it, and it's just so innocent, like you said, and it's just so true and raw, and it's a
Right,
snapshot of that time. Uh,
right.
and so like I said, your journey is great. So without that, I don't get a beginning of the story. I start in the middle of
Right.
the book,
Yep.
which,
Yep.
that's cool, but that beginning part is just it makes that middle part so rich and really,
Yeah.
it's cool. It's cool. I
Oh,
love
that's
having
nice.
that record. I do. I
Thank you.
love putting that record on. But I see
Wow.
even the Running on Ice record, you see it happening.
Yes. Yeah.
There's a difference there for sure.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not there and back again for sure.
No.
It's not quite everything you want, but it's definitely more everything you want.
Yeah.
So your relationship with Keith, he's a best friend, a brother when you're, starting this out.
Hmm.
And as a fan, we always like to, we don't want to see mom and dad fight. That's the kind of, you know, uh, I would love to hear you say, yes, Keith, still love him. He's, we talk, he's doing well. Can you say that?
No, unfortunately, I can't say that. Unfortunately, I mean, we don't really talk anymore. But that's okay. It's like he's one of the kindest people I've ever met in my life. I love him. He's supremely talented. When he opens his voice to sing, I'm almost, I'm just enraptured. I'm instantly, a total fan. But I feel like our journey together had a natural beginning, a natural middle, and a natural end, and that's okay. I mean, not every band can be you too, right?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it kind of just is what it is. But I wish nothing but the best for him. He married actually a friend of my brothers and mine from when we were growing up in Massachusetts. We introduced them, and so we have a vested interest in the Kane family. We want them to be happy. We want them to be living a good life, and yeah. So I think it's one of those things that just sort of is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's good to hear that he's doing well and everything.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. By all counts, yeah.
That's great. That's great. Have you ever felt like, I see so many bands that, they have this big, huge record or song like you had. Um, and it may not represent the band, although yours does. But it kind of locks them in a box.
Mhm.
You can't do anything different now. If you wanted to
Right.
do an acoustic album, you can't. You know what I mean? You need to do
Sure.
everything you want again and again and again because that's what
Right.
everybody wants.
Right.
So, have you ever felt like that success has limited your freedom?
It's a really good question. I think when we were making Go, which was the record the follow up to Everything You Want, I
Mhm.
think some of those fears and pressures crept in. I'm not sure how long they sort of stayed there once they got in and how quickly we were able to push them out. When I listen back to Go as a record, I'm incredibly proud of it. I love what we did, and I feel like we did a very, very good job. And I think ultimately that the label could have plausibly worked that record a bit harder and just at least given it the shot that they didn't give it. We were in the strange situation between Everything You Want and Go. 80% of the people at RCA were fired. So
Yeah.
everybody who kind of loved us and lifted us up was gone, and then we had to start over with Clive Davis and a bunch of people who really didn't care very much at all about us. If anything, we were a reminder to them of the old guard. And my sense is that it was kind of never going to happen. The writing was on the wall, unfortunately.
Yeah,
That's okay, but that's okay. I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Like
yeah,
that's okay. It's like you know, on your journey, you're going to have victories and defeats. And if you're going to have a career in the music business, and a few defeats are going to break you and cause you to sort of run away with your tail between your legs, it was the wrong job for you. You know,
yeah,
I can say like 100% with 100% certainty that nothing that could happen within this business would break me. You know, as far as like a release, either getting respect or not being loved or any of that stuff. It's like, I mean, at the bottom, you know, at the bottom of all of this, the core of all of this is these are songs that I write to try to make myself feel better. And if they make me feel better, then they make it on a record. And it's just that simple. Yeah.
that is great, man. And I think that's a lot of the reason you're still here. You know,
Yeah.
is
Maybe.
it's true. It's
Yeah.
authentic. It's very
Yeah.
organic and natural. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about the Clive Davis thing and the Go record.
Mhm.
There's a few things about it. Um, Bringing back, you have on Everything You Want, you have Ben Gross and Mark Ender, uh,
Mhm.
kind of producing and engineering that record. These
Mhm.
guys are, Ben's usually a heavier guy, Marilyn
Mhm.
Manson and Disturbed and that kind of stuff. Depeche Mode as well. Um,
Mhm.
what kind of impact did they have, first of all, on that record? You would think there'd be some kind of, they're overseeing the production on this thing. It might have, some of their trademarks on it. But why not bring them back for Go?
Yeah. First of all, Ben Gross is and has remained one of my dearest friends. I love him. He's worked with me on
It's on
every
the Lost
record.
Mile too.
Well, yeah, he's on. I
Yeah.
think he's on every. I think he's on every record since he's certainly on Lost Mile and Echoes from the Underground, I believe. But anyways, he's just a confidant and a really like a cherished relationship, a cherished human being in my world, and I love him. So when we were doing, yes, when I heard the Filter record and my brain just about exploded, I was like, no way, it's so great. Who did this? And when I spoke with Ben, it was clear that he was comfortable in the slightly more programmy side of things that you might hear with the Filter record. I didn't want to go too far down that road, but I loved the sound, the sonics of that record, and he sort of assured me that he felt like we could have a real band. Not that Filter aren't a real band, but very often like the Filter songs are largely built on
Yeah.
programming elements. We would be building our song on performances that were live in the studio, or at least edited, but after the fact, but largely sounding like live performances. And he did a stunning job with that. He really, really did. And I think for most of the songs like We Are and Everything You Want, You're a God, that's just Ben just nailing it basically. But for a song like You Say, for example, that was an example maybe where we kind of overshot the mark and we went a little too heavy. It wound up sounding almost a little too much like a Filter song. Not that there's anything wrong with sounding like a Filter song. It just wasn't what was right for us and for that song's place on the album. And so we had Mark helping us with some of these more sort of organic tones, the keyboard kind of atmospheres, the drum performance completely changed on that song. Went from a very kind of one-dimensional rock thing, which is sometimes exactly how you want
Right.
a rock drum track to be, is just blasting from start to finish, and it sort of turned into this kind of chewy kind of very organic, wooden, beautiful, woody sound and performances, especially in the verses. So that was an example of sort of what Mark brought to the table, and Ben obviously, on the songs I mentioned earlier, like where there really were hardly any changes or things made. I remember Mark Endert brought the descending keyboard line into Everything You Want at the end of the bridge when it goes, it's only what you're waiting for. There's that vocal line stays up, and there's a descending keyboard line underneath my vocal line there. That's a really cool part, and it's actually an essential little moment. Anyways, I want to make sure I mention that. That was Mark's brainchild, among many other things. But then, yeah, why not use him for Go is a really good question. I don't remember if he was busy. He may very well have been busy. I just remember that it wasn't a possibility. Something, for whatever reason, I don't remember.
I sit here as an outsider, as a fan,
Yeah.
and you hear, he just wasn't busy. He just wasn't available.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't think about those things. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Right.
you think that's the only job he has. You know what I mean?
Right.
When you're ready to go, he should be
Right.
there.
Yeah.
Well, maybe all the work.
In fairness, in fairness, maybe he would have, wrangled those songs in such a way that we would have had more success than we did with Go. But, John Shanks did a tremendous job on that record. And when I listen to that record, I really wouldn't change much. And so I don't necessarily spend much time thinking what if in terms of the actual recording of Go. I do spend a little more what if time thinking about all the team that was currently in place at RCA, who sort of, told us basically as much, we're not going to let you out of this deal, but we're really not going to hardly release the record at all. And that was challenging. But I have to say thank you to the current team over at RCA and Sony, because they licensed that record to us now, so we're able to perpetuate it on our own, which feels frankly like that record is being respected in the way that I had hoped that it would be at some point.
Absolutely. And that is a great record. It might be my favorite Vertical Horizon record, actually.
Nice.
I
Thanks,
love
bud.
that record. And I listened to like something like Sunshine, and it's
Yeah.
that has that it's a heavy tune,
Yeah.
and I think about John producing that record, and he's doing kind of a pretty cool gig now.
Oh yeah.
The Bon Jovi
I'll say.
thing.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
it has his mark on it,
Yep.
and I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But I'd like to get back to the Clive Davis thing, where obviously you weren't appreciated with Clive. I
The one,
did you
and
ever
the one
have a
thing
conversation with him?
I did speak with him a few times. I have to mention though, even as we're saying this out loud, like I have to own my part of that time. Like I had written a bunch of songs that I thought were pretty good. Maybe they weren't good enough as far as he was concerned. I hadn't written "And I Will Always Love You." Right?
Right.
We didn't have that in
Thank
there.
you. Thank you for that.
Well, hey, I would have taken it, believe me. But so some of the onus is on me. Clearly, it has to be, right? If we had made a record that they could not deny, then they would have said, okay, well, we didn't think this was going to happen, but guys, this is undeniable. It's going to be huge, so let's just do what we have to do to make it huge. And that didn't happen, and that's on me as far as I'm concerned. That's on me. But having said that, I don't think it was as bad as it was treated at the time. I will say that.
So I wasn't there, but
Yeah.
I can't see putting that record on and saying it's just trash.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, come on.
This I'll tell this really quickly, but this tells the whole story. So we were in Chicago on the day the album was released. I had to go to 7 record stores to find one copy of it.
Yeah.
And we had just had a multi-million selling record. So that says everything. Like whether or not someone is going to admit it or they're not going to admit it. But if you have one copy of this of new band's release on release day, you're telling us everything you need to know.
Yeah,
It's fine.
and I hear those things, a
Yeah,
lot, and it's that if that record's available, you're doubling, at least doubling, tripling, quadrupling your sales, because everything you want
yeah,
is
maybe.
still in
Yeah,
people's minds. They want more. They want more,
yeah, yeah.
and
That's all right.
and you go to get it, and it's not there. You move on to the next band.
Right, right,
It's a
right.
thing. I gotta touch on the Rush thing. Huge
Yeah.
Rush fan.
Mm.
You have the professor, Neil Peart. You get to know Neil, not only in a writing sense and a collaborative musical sense, but as a friend. That is a place that not many people get to go. As we know, Neil's a private guy. He didn't let a whole lot of people into his world. Very, very special honor for you to have for sure.
Yeah,
And he's on Vertical Horizon Records. He wrote lyrics for a
yeah,
Vertical Horizon song.
yeah,
Unheard of, really. Uh,
yeah,
he bought a car from a girlfriend's best friend, and
yeah,
that's how you meet Neil Peart. Uh,
yeah.
Crazy stuff, crazy stuff. Tell me about a little bit about the relationship, and if you wrote any more or worked on anything other than what we hear.
Um, so so just to be clear, Rush is my favorite band. Um, Rush was my favorite band growing up. Neil
Wow.
Peart is my favorite drummer, and Neil Peart is my favorite lyricist. So Neil was, my favorite lyricist and my favorite drummer in my favorite band for my whole life. And so it was a really interesting thing when I met him. I didn't know what to say because I didn't want to. I just didn't know. It was like this is either gonna go horribly or it's gonna go pretty bad. Like it's not.
No chance of it going good.
No, no, because like I'm gonna germ out in some way that's gonna just cause him to want to pull back a little bit. And what happened instead was he reached down with his huge tree trunk of a hand and he said, "I'm a huge fan of your work."
Wow. Wow.
And and it was such a quintessentially Neil thing to do, right? Like Neil wanted to just be one of the guys. He wanted to just sort of hang out and not be up on a pedestal, which is ironic, of course, because that's where his job took him. But off the stage, he just wanted to talk about stuff that fascinated him, things that interested him. People who were passionate interested him and intrigued him. If someone was really into fly fishing, he'd want to talk to you about fly fishing and learn about fly fishing. Well, he instantly sort of just put us on common ground, which is the most Neil thing that you could ever that he could have ever have done. So I wind up talking to him about the car because I'm a passionate car guy. He noticed the watch that I was wearing, which was a watch that he at one point had also owned as he was sort of getting into watches a little bit. So all of a sudden we've got all these other things that we're interested in. We're talking about restaurants. Where do you go to get the best burger in LA? And all these things. And what started off as me, tight like a statue, ready to just crumble into little pieces, turned into, hey, this guy's cool. I like me towards Neil. I like this. Like Neil's a cool guy. Like we're having a nice conversation. This is not. There's no stress. This is not. You know, what you hear that some of those social interactions can be like when Neil feels a little uncomfortable. And so, yeah, we took our time. And really what I should say is he took his time. We stayed in touch. We corresponded over months and months and months. And then ultimately we just started hanging out, and talking, you know, I'd read a book that he recommended and I'd would say, hey, can I come over and can we have a book club? Can I talk to you about the book?
Yeah.
I'd love to know what you think about this passage and that passage. And, we'd order some lunch and hang out. And then we talk about cars and motorcycles. And, he just, he be, he, the craziest thing about it is he went from being this person whom I, really looked up to as far as his career and his music, his writing, his books, um, and he turned into like my big brother, which is kind of like the most beautiful journey as far as I'm concerned, because obviously it went without saying that I would deeply respect him and admire him, but the more challenging thing I think I've been finding as I get older is finding real friends, like finding people that you really love, that you really can count on, and who can count on you,
Yeah.
and so at the end of the day, yeah, we made some music together, and he played on "Burning the Days" and "Echoes from the Underground," and we wrote a song together called "Even Now" from "Burning the Days." And those are important, really important moments that I still can't really believe we did, but those all pale in comparison to the fact that I had someone in my life that I felt was like my big brother.
Yeah, yeah, it pales in comparison to hanging out and just having lunch.
Totally,
Isn't that great?
totally. Yeah,
That is fantastic. I don't want to keep you too long. I know you got more.
yeah,
Richard Marx. Want to touch on
yeah,
Richard Marx? You did the duo
yeah,
out.
yeah.
And I'm in Chicago here, and the Arcada Theater is kind of my home base. Uh,
Oh, cool.
yeah, and I know you recorded the live album there. Uh,
Yeah.
Gonna be playing Displains in a little while, which is another Ron Onesti venue. So
Mhm.
very closely knit there. Um, have you written more with Richard Marx? Will we
Yes.
get more work with Marx in the future?
Yes, definitely. We've got a couple songs that we're not sure where they're going to be housed. I'm working on two new Vertical Horizon records right now. They are obviously taking longer than I want them to, but that's sometimes they take as long as they take.
That's
I'm
right.
just grateful. I'm grateful to be honest with you. At 54, I'm grateful that I still have songs inside of me. Like that's the thing. And so
Oh,
if this
cool.
stuff takes a little longer to get out there, I've never no one could ever accuse my output as having alacrity. We are what we are slow fashion as opposed to like the H&M different stuff every day.
Yeah.
But it just is what it is. But we're getting there, and I'm really really proud of the music so far. And Richard and I co-wrote a song for one of those records, and then we're working on a couple other things. Like I said, and we're not sure where those things are going to go. But he's another he's another big brother. How did I get two beautiful great big brothers? Obviously the tragedy of losing Neil is still just like this. It's just it hits me every day. God, the way I think about it is that his presence was so large in my life. His love and his light and his laughter and his enthusiasm and his excitement. It just was this huge place inside my heart. And when he passed away, that just became this big black hole. And it's just empty and deep. And I've been trying over time. Dang it! Sometimes I get emotional. I've been trying to. I've been trying to just remember all of the beauty that he is, and in doing so, remember the laughter and the light and the love. And when I do that, I feel like that darkness kind of goes away a little bit, and I can just hold him there. Man,
Yeah. I'm so sorry.
sorry. No, no, I'm
No,
sorry. It's
no.
just. It's just
We,
so.
as a fan that has followed them and Neil, it's devastating to a fan. I can't imagine
Yeah.
to somebody like yourself who is a
Yeah. Well,
fan, a deep
but
friend.
but but for all of us, like that's the thing, sometimes I find myself even talking in these types of circumstances. We're all in disbelief. Like anybody who loves the band, like to love Rush is a very, very unique passion. It is a very unique passion. And if you're a Rush fan, you and I are going to get along. I guarantee it.
It's weird,
It's
isn't it?
yeah. So
There's
like
a
so
community out there that is just, it's a brethren. It's just,
yeah.
it's crazy. You have a lot
Yeah.
of different pages of, community Rush fan communities, and
Right.
it's absolutely the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think it's a pain we all feel, and but when I speak about the pain that I feel, I just have to talk about it, the pain that I feel. But back to that, as I've gotten older, when I was a kid, I used to think that I was just going to have more and more and more and more friends. It was an inverse pyramid. As I would get older, I'd have more and more and more friends. What I've realized is, as I get older, I have fewer and fewer and fewer friends, and that's just how it is. So to meet somebody like Neil, and then have him be so close, and to meet somebody like Richard, as it is like later in my journey, I just want to hold him so close, and so yeah, I'm very, very fortunate. And also the fact that these guys, are were such talented musicians, like, it's crazy. But back to Richard, he is, he's an Olympic level songwriter. He's an Olympic level singer, and he just is stunningly talented, and doesn't get as much credit as he deserves, even though he gets a lot of credit, because he's one of the best.
Yeah, and I think you guys are very similar in the way that you get credit. I
Mm,
think that Vertical Horizon. I think to myself, man, people are missing so much because
mm,
everything you want. They've done so many great things that go
mm.
unnoticed.
Thank you.
But then I look at the numbers and I'm like, there's almost 1 million monthly listeners on Spotify, and
Right,
people just absorb music differently now. And I'm thinking,
right.
it's really not going unnoticed. People know you're
Yeah,
there and they appreciate
yeah,
it, and it's great, and people are
yeah,
listening.
yeah,
And he a lot for him as well. I think he
yeah.
had, the really big hits, and now, he's been doing more and more, and it seems to go unnoticed, but it's not.
No, I agree.
Everybody knows that you guys are brilliant. I just,
Thanks.
I want to ask you one more thing about the Lost Mile. That's the last record, 2018. You got more coming. We know
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
That record very different. I'll be honest, it sits differently with me.
sure.
It's not my favorite Vertical Horizon record. Uh, it's just, but it's an adventure. It's part of the story.
Yeah.
And you took some chances. It's very different, a little more programming, keyboards, that kind of thing. Will we see hear more of that on the new record? Are you gonna
I think
little
it's
both?
less. I think it's more rock, less Lost Mile. But the context of Lost Mile is, growing up, once I went to high school, I was exposed to bands like Depeche Mode and New Order, Joy Division, The Cure, and they had enormously humongous. There were many words I started to say right there in that moment, but just a very large impact on me. And I, with the exception of like one song, a song called "Love Struck" off of Echoes from the Underground, I never really felt. I didn't feel like I had really been able to acknowledge my love for those the bands, for the music of those bands. And so Lost Mile is a love letter. That's all it is.
Awesome.
It's just a love letter to those bands. And again, coming back to no, absolutely no consideration for anything else. Like, this is what I want to do. This is what we're going to do. Some people are going to totally dig it. Some people are going to really dislike it. Some people are going to go, hey, it's not my favorite. And I'm going to go, cool, thanks for giving it a try. I freaking love it.
There you
you
go.
know?
And it goes back to that freedom.
Right,
You can't do there and back again. You can't do this.
right,
You can do that, and you did do
right.
that, and I
Yeah.
respect that. And like I say,
Thanks,
it's not
man.
it's not my favorite Vertical Horizon album, but you did what you want. It's part of your adventure. It's part of your great
Yeah.
story. And man, I'm
Yeah.
so happy to hear anything you got, man.
Oh, thanks,
You
Scott.
know,
I
that
appreciate it.
it's great, man.
Thank you,
Thank you
buddy.
so much for your time. I'm sorry, we're long.
No, no, no.
But
It's all good.
you're gonna be out on tour. Gin Blossoms, Toad the Wet Sprocket, starting August 1st. You got some headlining dates. You're coming towards me in October and July. You'll be in Kankakee,
Yeah.
Illinois. I'm here right outside of Chicago, so I'll see you on the road for sure.
Please, yeah, let us take care of you.
Oh,
Amanda has our contact information. Let us take care of you, okay?
I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, man. All right.
Verticalhorizon.com for everybody that needs all that merch and needs to find out where merch
Yeah.
can be. Yeah.
Yeah, and official Vertical Horizon on Instagram and Facebook and at Vertical Horizon on X. If you would check us out, we're trying to grow that stuff. It's frustrating. I look at the numbers, and some of my friends' numbers are so much bigger. I'm like,
Yay!
no. So, but thank you very much.
You got it, man. I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Okay, be well,
Bye
Scott.
bye. You too.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye.